Ed's Auto Reviews proudly presents Automotive Advent, a Christmas car roll. Welcome everyone to a series of 12 Did You Know short story videos as a gift from me to you for the holidays. Merry Christmas everyone, and enjoy. The Ford Falcon was Ford's American idea for a European compact car for the American market. The car was released in 1960 to give an answer to the rising demand of smaller and fuel-efficient cars that were coming in from Europe, and also to compete with GM's Chevrolet Corvair and Chrysler's Valiant brand. Relatively small, but above all a simple, no-nonsense and straightforward car that offers back-to-basic budget transportation. People loved it, and if you thought a standard Falcon was too boring, then in later years you could get a sports package and performance versions. If you were really patient, you could get a sporty sister of the Falcon, which was the Mustang in 1965. The Mustang would then claim a spot at the front of stage over at Ford for the coming years, and the Falcon was quietly doing its job in the background as an economy car. Until the late 1960s, the Falcon had run its course and sales were slowing down. To get some of that Mustang magic, late 60s Falcons featured exterior styling and body lines that were somewhat inspired by the Mustang's sporty looks, but the overall styling was still rather conservative and dull. More importantly, new safety regulations were coming up for 1970, and the Falcon wasn't going to be able to meet these new regulations. Time for a refresh. In the meantime, Ford was busy working on a replacement for the Falcon, a compact car ready for the 1970s, which would be the Maverick. The Maverick featured the typical Coke bottle styling, long hood, short deck proportions, and a fastback for a nice contemporary look and met with the new regulations. But here is where it gets interesting. The Maverick went on sale in the fall of '69 and was well underway in 1970. The Falcon line was retired on the last day of 1969. And yet, although a perfect replacement was already there and shared the same showroom floor, Ford felt the need to extend the Falcon name by introducing a new generation halfway through 1970. Huh? Introducing the Ford Falcon 1970½. What's going on here? Well, for starters, the Ford Motor Company was in a bit of turmoil during these years. The company had no real leader, Bunky Knudsen was out and Lee Iacocca had yet to ring the doorbell. It could very well be that the Falcon 70½, was a product of some manager trying to claim the top spot by greenlighting this confusing idea. Either that, or there is a more solid reason behind it. See, the outgoing Falcon came in various body styles, like a coupe, sedan, and station wagon. Its replacement, the Maverick, was just as low priced, but initially only came as a two-door fastback. For those that were used to buy Falcons and only wanted low-cost transportation in the shape of a station wagon or four-door sedan, there was no other choice than to move up to the pricier mid-sized Ford Fairlane or Torino. This means that there was a gap in the lineup, and this gap had to be filled. And so what did Ford do? Introduce an even more stripped-down version of the Fairlane mid-size car and call it the Falcon for 1970½. Really, just like that. Once again, the Falcon returned after a 6-month absence as a stripped-down Fairlane. This also means that the Falcon as a model name jumped from a compact car segment to a mid-size car segment, and so you could say that the car grew substantially. The car came as a much-needed two-door and four-door sedan, but also as a station wagon. And here's the fun part. Although the car was stripped of all of its features common on the more deluxe Fairlanes and Torinos, you could still choose between all the available engines. Although for most economy buyers the 6-cylinder was the default choice, you could also shove the big and beautiful 429 Cobra Jet Ram Air V8 in there, making a whopping 370 horsepower. If you weren't snoozing in the second half of 1970, you could build the ultimate sleeper or muscle car. The Torino-based Falcon lasted until the start of the 1971 model year, when it was discontinued and more or less replaced by a newly introduced four-door version of the Maverick, although a station wagon version was never offered, at least not in the US. To wrap it up, you and I, as a car enthusiast, usually mock, make fun of, or laugh at these automotive mistakes, like brands that only lasted a couple years and failed, or brands in a model series that only lasted one model year and failed. But imagine how unique it is that you introduce a model halfway through the year, which is already unusual to begin with, only for it to last 6 months. 1970.5 Ford Falcon. Is it the shortest model series ever to be on sale? Let me know in the comments.
Ho, 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 ho.